Hello and welcome to Serendipity. I'm Mrs. Wheelis from the Summit Library. Today's program is entitled Mountain Mayhem, and it's about having a lot of fun with Appalachian tales and tunes. Now, the Appalachian Mountains are a very long mountain range, about more than 2,000 miles long, ranging from Georgia all the way up to southern Canada. Now, the Appalachian Trail, which people want to hike because it's a very cool thing to do, begins in Georgia and ends in Maine. So it's very long. And bagpackers like to put on their hiking boots and hike the Appalachian Trail. And it is an accomplishment to be able to say you have done it. People rarely ever do the whole thing straight because that would take 5 to 7 months. They usually do it in parts, and that's more successful. At any rate, think about that. Let's put on our backpacks and go hike 2,000 miles. Easy peasy, huh? The mountain culture has songs, musical instruments, and stories that have come from families who lived or still live in the Appalachian Mountains, especially the southeastern part in North Carolina and Tennessee. Settlers came to the mountains through the years ago, from many countries, especially England, Ireland, and Scotland. And they settled there, and in years past, of course, before there was TV or shopping malls or even electricity, mountain people lived in isolated areas, and they couldn't really travel very much, especially in the winter. And so they would sit together in the evenings and entertain each other by playing musical instruments, most of which they made themselves, and by telling the old stories. So the songs are fun, the story is very funny, and we are also going to see some handmade toys. This instrument is called an Appalachian Lap Dawsomer. And obviously the reason it's called a lap dulcimer is because you play it on your lap. Now, this is a mountain instrument that was played especially in the southeastern part of the Appalachian Mountains for many, many years, and is still played today. After a while, they finally got guitars and banjos, but this was the main instrument for a long time, and people think that it is probably the only original American folk instrument. It may be similar to some European instruments, but we think it is an American original. Now, it's made of wood, obviously, and this is burled maple, and this one was made by a man here in New Jersey whose name is Bob McNally. And it has 4 strings. Some of them just have 3 strings, but this one has 4 strings. And the repetition of the notes gives you something like a droning sound. People in the mountains, I think I've seen, hold down the frets. These are the frets. They hold down the frets with a clothespin, a little wooden clothespin, and they strum the strings with a feather or a turkey quill. But I'm so used to playing stringed instruments with my hands, I just play this with my hands. Now, the first song is one I learned in elementary school, and it's an Appalachian folk song called "Chickens Crowing on Sourwood Mountain." Here's how it goes. Chickens crowing on Sourwood Mountain, hey, ding dang doodle day. So many pretty gals I can't count 'em, hey, ding dang doodle day. My true love is a blue-eyed daisy, hey, ding dang doodle day. If I don't see her, I'll go crazy, hey, ding dang doodle day. Chickens crowing on Sourwood Mountain, hey, ding dang doodle day. So many pretty gals I can't count 'em, hey, ding dang doodle day. Now, I'd love for you to sing this with me and do some fun motions. Everybody, no matter what age you are. Here we go. You start out like chickens. It's supposed to be funny. Chickens crowing on Sourwood Mountain, hey, Ding dang diddle-light day. Try it with me. Chickens crowing on Sourwood Mountain, hey. Ding dang diddle-light day. Now it would be just perfect if you could sing along with me. The words aren't hard. Chickens crowing on Sourwood Mountain. All right, let's try it. Chickens crowing on Sourwood Mountain, hey. Ding dang diddle-light day. And the next part of the chorus is, so many pretty gals, I can't count 'em. And you do this. So many pretty gals, I can't count 'em. Hey, ding dang diddle-light day. Try that with me. So many pretty gals, I can't count 'em. Hey, ding dang diddle-light day. All right, let's put the two parts together. Everybody, it's fun. Chickens crowing on Sourwood Mountain, hey, ding dang diddle-light day. So many pretty gals, I can't count 'em. Hey, ding dang diddle-light day. All right, here we go. Get ready. Chickens crowing on Sourwood Mountain, hey, ding dang diddle-light day. So many pretty gals, I can't count 'em. Hey, ding dang diddle-light day. My true love lives over the ocean. Hey, ding dang diddle-light day. I'll go to see her if I take a notion. Hey, ding dang diddle-light day. Chickens crowing on Sourwood Mountain. Hey, ding dang diddle-light day. So many pretty gals I can't count 'em. Hey, ding dang diddle-light day. My true love lives over the holler. Hey, ding dang diddle-light day. She won't come and I will follow. Hey, ding dang diddle-light day. Chickens crowing on Sourwood Mountain. Hey, ding dang diddle-light day. So many pretty gals I can't count 'em. Hey, ding dang diddle-light day. My true love, she lives in Letcher. Hey, ding dang diddle-light day. She won't come and I won't fetch her. Hey, ding dang diddle-light day. Chickens crowing on Sourwood Mountain. Hey, ding dang diddle-light day. So many pretty gals I can't count 'em. Hey, ding dang diddle-light day. Thank you for doing it with me. The title of this book is How Animals Saved the People, and they are animal tales from the South. Now, the person who retold the stories in this book was J.J. Renaud, and the illustrations are by James Ransom. Now, the story I chose to read to you today is called The Golly Whumper, and it's an Appalachian folktale. Down in a deep, shady holler, where a shining mountain river comes busting through the gorge, old Aunt Molly lived alone in a little cabin in the pines. Her wrinkly, crinkly blue eyes had a merry twinkle, and laughter was never far from her heart. Aunt Molly worked hard to make a living, but sometimes it seemed she grew more stones than cabbages. Still, the old woman didn't begrudge ary a soul their good fortune, not even her rich, miserly neighbor who lived down the dirt road. She didn't mind that the old man was stingy so much, but the mean way he treated the mountain critters made her mad enough to spit. That rich farmer had got himself a snarling guard dog and set sharp-toothed traps all about his garden. The wild animals had pert near been scared off the mountain. Aunt Molly shook her head at such goings-on. What goes around comes around, she thought. Someday that rich fella might just wish he'd treated the critters better. Now one day Aunt Molly was fixing to get herself a drink of water from her cedar bucket when she dropped her good dipper gourd and broke a hole in it. "Goodness gracious," she says, "now what am I going to do? There is nary a dry gourd about the place." The old woman went out behind the house where she grew gourd vines around a little tree. There was only one green gourd on the vine. "Druther not pick a green gourd," she thought, Folks say a green gourd'll witch ya. Well, I reckon I got to have me a dipping gourd. This big un here'll do fine." The old woman started into pulling on the gourd. She pulled and pulled until at last the gourd popped off the vine. Golly Whump! Aunt Molly toted the gourd into the cabin and set it up on the fireboard to dry. She settled into her rocking chair and took up her knitting. Suddenly the big green gourd came rolling off the fireboard and hit the floor. Golly Whump! "What in tarnation?" The old lady got up to set the gourd back on the fireboard and propped a big stick of kindling against it. "Now you just stay put right there, Mr. Gourd," she fussed, and went back to her knitting. She had no more settled into her rocking chair when that gourd started to twitching and whumping around on the fireboard. Golly Whump! It smashed the clock to smithereens. The gourd bumped down to the cabin floor and started whumping away at everything in sight. Golly Whump, Whump, Whump! Her chamber pot went flying, her best quilt ripped apart, fruit jars and dishes were smashing all over the place, and the spinning wheel was whumped to splinters. Then the big green gourd started chasing the old woman round and round that tore-up cabin. "Oh, law!" Aunt Molly hollered at the top of her lungs. "I got a big green witchy Golly Whumper of a gourd after me." She headed for the door and near about escaped. But just as she was running out of the house, the gourd caught up with her. Golly Whump, Whump, Whump! It whumped her right smack on her bottom. The poor old woman howled as she went sailing through the air and out over the porch. She landed smack dab in the middle of the cabbage patch with a big thump. Aunt Molly lit out down the dirt road toward the neighbor's house, but no matter how fast she ran, the gourd caught up with her. Golly Whump, Whump, Whump! It smacked her hard upside her tail feathers. "Oh, law!" she hollered. "I got to get shed of that big green Golly Whumper of a witchy gourd, for it whumps me to death." The old woman ran and ran until she came upon Groundhog, sitting in front of his house. "What's the matter, old granny?" said he. "Looks like you running from trouble." "Oh, law!" she squalled. "I got a big green Golly Whumper chasing me." "Well, you just come on into my house. You always been good to us animals. Why, I'll fix that old Golly Whumper." The old woman ducked behind Groundhog's door inside the house. That Golly Whumper came traveling up and rolled right inside the house. Groundhog jumped on the gourd and held on for dear life. Golly Whump, Whump, Whump! The gourd whumped him upside the head, knocking him back into a somersault and sent him crashing into the old lady. "Ooh, law!" she hollered. "Run for your life!" Aunt Molly ran out the door lickety-split, fast as her old legs would carry her. Pretty soon she saw Panther stretched out in front of his house. Panther raised up and eyed the old woman. "What you running from, Granny? Got yourself some kind of trouble?" "Got a big green Golly Whumper of a witchy gourd after me," she huffed. "It's about to whump me to pieces." "You always been good to us critters," said Panther. "Jump into my house. I'll take care of that Golly Whumper for you." Aunt Molly leaped into Panther's house and hid behind the door. The Golly Whumper flew right in behind her. Panther tore into that gourd, but he could only scratch a little chump out of the Golly Whump, Whump, Whump. The gourd walloped Panther in the belly and knocked the wind plumb out of his sails. Then it cut loose on the old woman again. Golly Whump, Whump, Whump! "Oh, law!" she cried. "I got to get rid of this Golly Whumper." Poor Aunt Molly was about to give out. "Legs don't fail me now," she thought as she ran on down the holler. By and by she came upon a great giant of a bear sitting out by his door. "Oh, Granny," Bear calls, "what you running from? You got trouble after you?" "Oh, law," she puffed. I got an old witchy Golly Whumper of a big green gourd after me. It's about to whump me to death. I have run and hid behind every blame door down the holler. Look out, here it comes again." "You always been good to the wild things," said Bear. "Quick, run in my house and I'll fix that Golly Whumper." Aunt Molly ran and hid behind the door, but old Bear jumped in and nosed her into the clothes closet. "You stay put over there, old woman," says he, "and leave everything to me." Bear hid behind the front door just in the nick of time. Suddenly, the Golly Whumper came whizzing in like a cannon shot, screeched to a halt, turned back behind the door, and aimed at Bear. But before it could whump ary a thing, Bear reared up, scooted around, and sat down hard with all his might. Squash! Bear squeezed all the stuffings out of that gourd. All that was left of the big green Golly Whumper was a heap of nasty crumbs. Aunt Molly was so happy to be set free from that Golly Whumper, she clapped and whooped and laughed and hollered. She got out a broom and swept the mess of Golly Whumper into the fireplace and burned it to ashes. "I surely am obliged to you and all them critters," she said. "Ain't there a little something I can do for you?" "Well," says Bear, "it's been an awful long time since I had me a taste of honey. That rich old miser man who lives down the road is plenty rough on the critters, so I don't get out much these days to look for any wild honey. I would purely love a taste." Aunt Molly had an idea. "Follow me," she says. Back up the holler they went to Panther's house. Poor old Panther was all bruised and sore. "Panther, you did your part to help me with that old Golly Whumper," she said. "Now what can I do for you?" Panther studied on it. "Reckon I could have a taste of meat?" he asked. "It's been ever so long since I've had me a good meal. Hunting ain't been no blame good lately, what with that old miser man's snarling dog chasing away all the game." Aunt Molly smiled. "Don't you fret another minute," she says. "I believe we might just find you a nice smoked ham. You just come on with Bear and me." They all set out walking to Groundhog's house. They found the poor feller sitting in a daze with a knot on his head and a swolled up nose. "Groundhog, you are a good friend to stick up for me," said the old woman. "I am much obliged. Now tell me, what can I do for you?" Groundhog rubbed his swollen snout. "Well, a mess of turnips would be just fine. I ain't had no good eating from the garden lately, what with that old miser man's biting traps." "Follow me," says the old woman, and took them back down the road to the rich man's house. "Now, boys, the way I figure it, you done my neighbor a good turn. He just don't know it yet. His dog and traps weren't no match against that big green witchy gourd. Why, that Golly Whumper would have whumped his fine farm all to pieces." Aunt Molly grinned and her wrinkly, crinkly eyes twinkled. "It's only right that you fellers get a reward for saving his farm. Now, don't you worry about a thing. I got a plan. And as for that old miser man, I'll explain it all to him later." Aunt Molly knew her rich neighbor had gone away to town, leaving his mean old guard dog to watch the place. "You uns just wait over in them bushes," she said. The animals hid themselves, and the old woman went to the split rail fence. She heaved up the heavy top rail. Then she put her fingers in her mouth and gave out a keen whistle. "Doo-wee!" Hound Dog came running. When he saw a stranger at his fence and smelled the scent of wild varmints, he set up a loud ruckus, baying and barking and snapping and growling. "Ooh, ooh, 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 ooh!" Hound Dog charged at that fence. and stuck his slobbery chops right under that raised rail. Quick as a wink, Aunt Molly dropped the rail and pinned the dog down tight. Hound Dog was stuck in her trap and couldn't do a thing except whine. The old woman hoisted up her skirts and eased her old bones over the fence. Groundhog shimmied through a little gap in the rails, while Bear humped himself over. Panther leaped over the fence easy as pie. They all scattered about to get their reward. Bear found a big jar of sourwood honey. Panther found a smoked ham hanging from the rafters and clawed it down. The old woman gave Groundhog a pokey sack, and he filled it to bustin' with garden turnips. All the animals went back home feeling good that they had helped their neighbors and earned a fine reward. Aunt Molly told that old miser man all about the Golly Whumper and how the critters had rescued her and surely saved his farm. Her rich neighbor was ashamed of his mean, stingy ways. He took up his traps, hushed his dog with a ham bone, and gave the old woman enough dipping cords to last her from now to forever. Aunt Molly was satisfied. She had the river to sing her to sleep, the wild things to watch over her, the friendship of a neighbor, and she never had to pick another big green Golly Whumper of a witchy gourd ever again. And that is the story of the Golly Whumper. Another Southern folk song, I imagine that they sang it in the mountains, is called Cindy. Oh, you should see my Cindy. She lives away down south, and she's so sweet the honeybees swarm around her mouth. Get along home, Cindy, Cindy. Get along home, Cindy, Cindy. Get along home, Cindy, Cindy. I'll marry you someday. I wish I was an apple hanging on the tree, and every time you send me past, she take a bite of me. Get along home, Cindy, Cindy. Get along home, Cindy, Cindy. Get along home, Cindy, Cindy. I'll marry you someday. Well, kiss me once, mwah. Kiss me twice, mwah, mwah. One more time, mwah. Oh, I love Cindy. Let's try that again. Do it with me. Kiss me once, kiss me twice, one more time. Oh, I love Cindy. I have a small collection of little handmade toys, and I guess probably people in the mountains who couldn't run out to the toy store or order something on Amazon had to use their wits and their skills to make their own toys. Now, I don't know what this is called. I know it has a name. Ben said it must be a fidget spinner, or it's like a fidget spinner. Can you see how it works? It looks like it'd be fun to make. All right, that's one. Another one that I like is, again, I know this one has a name, but I don't know what the name is. You have a little stick like this, and then this one has little cuts in the side, and then this little piece is tacked on with a small nail. And what you do is let's call it a whirligig. I don't know what the authentic name is, but we'll call it a whirligig. Here we go. Can you see the little grooves? That's what you push your stick on to make the little whirligig thing go around. It's kind of fun to see if you can do it. Alrighty, let's see what else I have. Now this one I cannot do, but I bet you can. It's a little cup and a ball on the end of a string. And you obviously are supposed to catch the ball in the string. Catch the ball in the little cup. Now, I'll try it. Don't laugh because I cannot do it, but I'm going to try. Get it swinging like this. Missed. Try one more time. I'm getting the little ball on the string spinning. Well, you're supposed to catch the ball in the cup, and I could not do it, but that's the idea. And see, this again, this is something you could just make yourself. These are made out of wood. The cup is bolted on there, and the string's just tied on. So anyway, that's a fun game. And let's see what else I wanted to show you. This goes very well with the song we just had, Chickens Crowing on Sourwood Mountain. All right, let me be sure you can see. These are little chickens, and they are eating corn, which is in the middle of the little paddle. And there's a block on the bottom. And so when you get that block swinging around, it makes the chickens peck the corn, which I think is just about the most fun of all the ones I've found. Chickens crowing on Sourwood Mountain, hey, ding dang diddle-I-day. Okay, and the last thing I want to show you is called a limberjack, and it's a toy that you could play with, and it's also a percussion instrument. So on certain songs, you could use this. All right, what you have is a plain paddle. Again, it's something you can make for yourself out of wood. You have a plain paddle. You sit on the end of the paddle. There has to be enough leeway to make it bounce. Then you have a little wooden doll. Now the little wooden doll has a hole in the back, and you stick this stick in. And then you put the doll's feet on the limberjack, and you bounce the paddle, and it makes the limberjack dance. That's everybody's favorite of all my wooden toys. This is the limberjack. This is the last song, and it's called Keep on the Sunny Side, which is very good advice. It was made popular by the Carter family, famous Carter family. They played auto harps, and June Carter would be the one that you have heard of because she married Johnny Cash. Now, if you don't know about that, your mom will. There's a dark and a troubled side of life. There's a bright and a sunny side too. Though we meet with the darkness and strife, the sunny side we also may view. Keep on the sunny side, always on the sunny side. Keep on the sunny side of life. It will help us every day. It will brighten all the way if we keep on the sunny side of life. The storm and its fury broke today, crushing hopes that we cherish so dear. The clouds and the storms will in time pass away. The sun again will shine bright and clear. Keep on the sunny side, always on the sunny side. Keep on the sunny side of life. It will help us every day. It will brighten all the way if we keep on the sunny side of life. Let us grieve with a song of hope each day. thanks for joining us today for Mountain Mayhem. This is the last Serendipity program of the spring session. We're going to the librarians will take a little bit of a break, and then we start back up again with Serendipity and all the other programs that week. Our Serendipity will be on June 24th, and that's going to be an exciting program, our annual Midsummer's Eve celebration. No, we still can't have a bonfire, unfortunately, but we have lots of other fun ways to celebrate midsummer. Now, on that day, June 24th, you may come in person to Serendipity outside the library under a tent. It sounds really cool, doesn't it? Now, if you want to come, you need to ask your mother or father to register you online, because we're limited in the number of children we can have due to social distancing, so it's important to register. Also, all summer we're still going to be making the films that we've been making for Serendipity. So if you can't come that day, and I hope you will because I've been missing you and I'll be glad to see you, but you can watch it online. And you should register also for that, because you have to be registered to get the link to the online program. All right, now the programs, as you know, are geared for children in kindergarten through 5th grade. Now, Serendipity will be cool this summer with all kinds of animal programs, and I know you love animals as I do. The first one will be about Coco, true story, a gorilla who learned how to communicate with her trainer, human being, through hand signals. It's a wonderful story. There will be lots and lots of animal programs. So, join the reading club and look at all the programs and sign up for the ones you want to come to. I'll see you on the 24th.